Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The October sun bathed the park in a soft light, but the air was thick with palpable unease. 3 little girls, dirty and hungry, trembled beneath a worn bench, their eyes wide with hope and fear. They had heard of a rich man, a millionaire living in the city, known for his generosity, and they had nothing left to lose. "Please, sir, help us," whispered the youngest, a 7-year-old girl, clutching a torn teddy bear. Her slightly older sisters held her hands tightly, their gaze fixed on the approaching figure, looking confident and elegant. The man, dressed in a dark suit, stopped and observed the 3 children. His face showed a mixture of surprise and curiosity. He knelt down to be at their level. "What's happening? Where are your parents?" he asked in a soft but firm voice. Tears streamed down the girls' cheeks as they told their story, a broken family, a lost home, and hunger following them like a shadow. The millionaire felt his heart sink. He opened his wallet and handed them money, promising to take them to safety. The girls' eyes lit up with an almost unreal hope. But as they walked away, hand in hand with the man, a terrifying noise rang out behind them, a piercing scream, followed by a metallic crash. The millionaire turned around just in time to see the smaller of the 2 girls disappear in a burst of light and smoke. A car had gone out of control and was speeding straight toward them. He rushed forward, but chaos had already erupted. The once peaceful park had become a scene of horror. Girls were screaming, some falling to the ground, others disappearing beneath the debris. The millionaire felt a chill run down his spine. He had thought he was saving these children, but now, something terrible had begun. His fists clenched. Generosity was no longer an option. He had to survive. He had to protect those he could, and find out who wanted to harm them. The park was silent, except for the distant wail of sirens and the scattered cries of children. The millionaire, David Harrington, felt his heart sink. He had thought he had brought a little light into the lives of these 3 girls, and now he was facing a nightmare. The youngest, Lily, had fallen to the ground, gasping for air, her eyes filled with terror. Her older sister, Emma, was desperately trying to protect her, while the 3rd, Sophie, screamed as she tried to escape the debris. David had never witnessed such violence up close. His wealth and power were powerless against the sudden chaos that had engulfed the park. With a swift movement, he lifted Lily into his arms and pulled Emma behind him. Sophie, frightened but agile, slipped between them, and they took refuge behind a sturdy tree. David looked around. The wrecked car had vanished in a cloud of dust and shattered glass, and passers-by had frozen in horror. Everything's fine now," he murmured, trying to calm the girls, but his hands were trembling despite himself. He then realized that something inexplicable was happening. The smoke on the ground wasn't just dust. A strange and unsettling glow was rising, as if the park itself had come alive. Suddenly, a sharp scream rang out, different from the children's cries. David turned his head and saw a dark figure, half hidden by the trees, watching them. His heart pounded in his chest. This wasn't a simple accident. Someone, or something, had targeted them. Lily huddled against him, trembling. Why is this happening to us?" she asked in a voice so weak that he had to lean forward to hear her. David felt a new determination take hold of him. Fear and danger were irrelevant. He had to protect these girls, discover who wanted to harm them, and prevent this park, which had been their refuge, from becoming their tomb. And deep down, a terrifying question arose. This was only the beginning. David Harrington kept his eyes fixed on the 3 girls. The park, peaceful just moments before, was now transformed into a disturbing maze of debris and muffled screams. The wrecked car had vanished in a cloud of dust, but the shadow watching them hadn't moved. "Stay behind me," David ordered firmly. Emma and Sophie nodded, while Lily, still huddled against him, murmured silent prayers. David knew he had to keep his composure. Every movement, every sound could betray them. The figure moved slowly between the trees, almost invisible. David felt a cold shiver run down his spine. It wasn't just about the accident, someone was hunting them. A rush of adrenaline mixed with anger surged through him. Who could possibly want to hurt these children? And why? Suddenly, a sharp sound rang out behind them, the crack of a branch under a quick footstep. David turned just in time to see a shadow darting toward them. He grabbed Sophie, pushing her behind him, but the figure vanished before he could identify it. The girls were trembling with fear. Emma whispered, He wants to hurt us. David clenched his fists. I won't let anyone touch you. He decided to lead them out of the park. The exit was a few hundred meters away, but each step seemed to bring them closer to the threat. As they turned a corner, a black car slowed down, its tinted windows obscuring the driver's face. The car stopped, and a cruel smile appeared through the glass. The figure they had seen in the park was there, inside, watching them like prey. So, shall we escape? Said an icy voice from the car, distorted by a sadistic smile. David felt his blood run cold. The situation had gone from frightening to deadly. He understood that they could no longer simply flee, they had to confront the one who wanted to destroy them. And deep down, he knew that this fight would be far more personal and terrible than he had imagined. Lily squeezed his hand. Don't leave us, she whispered. David looked her in the eyes and silently promised, I will protect you, no matter what happens. Even if I have to face hell itself. David Harrington strode forward, the girls clutching him, his heart pounding like a drum. The black car followed at a distance, slowing down and accelerating at every turn, as if testing them. Every red light, every shadow became a threat. We can't go on like this, Emma murmured, her voice trembling. He's going to catch up with us eventually. David nodded. He knew they needed to find somewhere safe, but the park was isolated, and the city suddenly seemed more hostile than ever. As they turned into a narrow alley, a creak behind them made them turn around. A second black car had appeared out of nowhere, cutting them off. Fear seemed to paralyze the girls, but Lily, the youngest, did something unexpected. She pointed to the gate of an old abandoned building on their right and whispered, That way, quick. David hesitated, but he had no choice. He ran with them toward the building. Inside, dust and cobwebs covered everything, but it was their only chance. He locked the door behind them, breathing heavily. The black car remained outside, its headlights illuminating the building's facade. Then, a dull thud resonated against the metal. Someone was trying to force the door open. Who are you? David shouted, anger replacing fear. Why are you attacking these children? No response. Just oppressive silence, then an icy laugh, like that of a predator playing with its prey. David sensed they couldn't stay there indefinitely. He had to come up with a plan. As he examined the room, he noticed Sophie, the eldest, had grabbed an old piece of rusty metal. She clutched it firmly in her hands, determined, ready to defend her sisters. We're not going to let them do this, she said with surprising strength for a 10-year-old girl. David was struck by their determination. These girls weren't simply victims, they possessed a courage that could change the course of the situation. He knew he had to not only protect them, but also harness their strength to survive. Outside, the masked figure in the black car watched them, aware that the prey was beginning to defend itself. The game had only just begun. David Harrington scanned the abandoned room, searching for a way out. The floors creaked under their feet, the windows were too high to jump through, and the main door was threatened by the two black cars outside. Every passing second brought the assailant closer. We need to make a move, said David. But not without a plan. Sophie, holding her piece of rusty metal like a weapon, carefully observed the windows and beams. We could create a trap, she murmured, her face serious despite her young age. David looked at her, surprised by the child's lucidity. Explain. Sophie pointed to an old, rusty pipe running along the ceiling and some debris scattered on the floor. If we drop it on the door when they try to get in, it'll slow them down enough for us to get out the back. David felt a glimmer of hope. Okay. Let's do that. He gave the girls precise instructions. Lily, though trembling, followed the orders, positioning a heavy crate under the pipe. Emma placed a pile of debris to stabilize it. David, meanwhile, prepared for the moment when they would lure the attacker into the trap. Outside, the black cars had moved closer. The first one seemed ready to force its way through the gate. David took a deep breath and whispered to the girls, "Now." The door was suddenly pushed open, and Sophie dropped the pipe with a determined cry. The rusty metals slammed against the door with a deafening crash. The car braked sharply, its headlights illuminating the building's interior. The assailant backed away, surprised and furious. Taking advantage of the chaos, David grabbed Lily and Emma and led them toward a side exit behind an old brick wall. Their breathing was rapid, their hearts pounding as one. They had gained a few precious minutes, but David knew it was only a temporary victory. "He won't let us go," he said, his face grim. "He knows who we are now, and he wants something from us." Lily, trembling but brave, squeezed his hand. "We won't let him catch us." David felt a burning resolve within him. They were outnumbered, but their courage and intelligence could give them the upper hand. And as they moved away into the shadows of the city, he understood that the next confrontation would be even more terrible, and that their enemies were prepared to do anything to find them. David and the girls had found refuge in an old, abandoned warehouse, away from traffic and prying eyes. The walls were crumbling, but at least they offered temporary respite. David could finally breathe, or at least try to. Who wants to hurt us?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. "Why us?" David shook his head. "I don't know yet, Lily. But I fully intend to find out." He searched his memory and his contacts. As a billionaire, he had his sources, private detectives, former security agents. He needed to know who might know the children, or why they were a target. Then, chilling information reached him via his encrypted phone: the black car's license plate number had been tracked. The investigation revealed a name, Victor Crane, a mysterious man obsessed with cruel experiments and capable of tracking people's every move. David felt a chill run down his spine. Crane wasn't just a criminal. He was a methodical, intelligent, and terrifyingly dangerous predator. He must have been following them for a while, and the chaos in the park was only the beginning of his plan. Sophie, watching David intently, murmured, "We can't just stay here, he'll find us." David nodded. "We must act before he knows where we are." As he spoke, Lily did something strange. She closed her eyes, placed her hand on the old wooden table, and murmured a few incomprehensible words. A strange glint passed through her eyes. David frowned in surprise. "Lily, what are you doing?" he asked. Lily opened her eyes and replied with surprising calm, "I can sense where he is, like an invisible danger." David felt his heart leap. Was it a gift? An incredible intuition? In any case, this small spark of power could change everything. He understood then that protecting these girls wasn't just a matter of physical strength, but also of strategy and intuition. Outside, the engines of the black cars began to purr again. Victor Crane had spotted them. David looked at the girls, determined. They were going to have to fight, and this fight would be far more complex than anything he had ever faced. A chilling thought struck him: this night would only be the beginning of an even more terrible hell. Night had fallen on the city, but the shadow of menace never slept. David Harrington and the three girls moved silently through the deserted alleyways, guided by the steady breath of their survival. The moonlight illuminated their faces, contorted with fear and tension. Lily, still snuggled against David, squeezed his hand tightly. "He's here, very close," she murmured, her eyes closed, as if she saw something that others couldn't perceive. David frowned. "Where?" "At the corner of the street, behind the lampposts." "He's looking towards us, but he can't see us yet," she replied with a precision that chilled David. Sophie and Emma exchanged a look of disbelief. They had never seen Lily behave like this. David sensed that this gift could become their most powerful weapon. As they approached the indicated angle, David gave an order: Stay behind me and follow my movements." Lily guided David with surprising precision. When they reached an old shed, she stopped abruptly. "He's going to turn left, now." As predicted, the roar of an engine could be heard, and Victor Crane appeared in a black car, heading exactly on the predicted trajectory. David felt a surge of adrenaline. They had anticipated his move. Taking advantage of the distraction, David slid the girls inside the hangar, closing the door behind them. The assailant, surprised by the maneuver, braked sharply and slammed the door down furiously. David looked at the girls with a mixture of pride and concern. "Lily, your gift, it will save us. But we must be even more careful." The little girl nodded. "I feel he's going to strike again, but this time, he won't be able to surprise us." David then understood something fundamental: brute force wouldn't be enough. Their survival depended on strategy, Lily's instincts, and their ability to work together. And as they prepared for the next confrontation, he felt a chill run down his spine. Victor Crane wasn't going to give up easily. This night would be their first real battle, and no one knew who would come out alive. The hangar was plunged into darkness, lit only by the pale moonlight filtering through the dirty panes. David Harrington, tense, scrutinized every shadow, every suspicious movement. The girls were behind him, silent but attentive, their eyes reflecting fear and determination. Suddenly, a metallic sound rang out from outside. Victor Crane had broken the lock on a side entrance. David felt the adrenaline surge through him. The predator they had been fleeing for hours had finally entered their refuge. "Stay behind me," he shouted, grabbing an old stick he found in the shed. Crane entered, his icy eyes fixed on them, a cruel smile stretching across his face. "You thought you could get away with it?" he hissed. "You're just children, and you." He stared at David. "You think you can protect me?" David didn't reply. He positioned himself in front of the girls, ready for anything. But what Crane didn't know was that Lily had closed her eyes and was feeling his every move. "Left, 2 steps, now," she whispered to David. David dodged Crane's first attack, who was surprised by their anticipation. Sophie, with the piece of rusty metal, struck Crane's leg, knocking him off balance. Emma, brave despite her fear, grabbed an electrical cable hanging from the ceiling and swung it in front of the attacker, forcing him to retreat. Crane roared with rage. "Unbearable," he shouted. But David, using the girls' coordination, managed to keep him at bay, forcing him to retreat towards the side exit. Lily suddenly opened her eyes, her gaze shining with a surprising intensity. "He's going to try from behind," she warned. Thanks to his gift, David was able to anticipate Crane's every move. For the first time since the beginning of the night, they had an advantage: foresight. But David knew Crane wouldn't give up so easily. The real battle had only just begun, and every move they made had to be perfect. As Crane stepped back to prepare for another attack, David felt a burning determination within him: they would not be victims. Not tonight. Not ever. The night felt even more oppressive inside the hangar. David and the girls' ragged breaths mingled with the metallic clatter of Victor Crane's boots on the dusty floor. Every second counted, and Crane, frustrated by his failures, was beginning to lose his legendary composure. David took a deep breath. "Listen to me carefully," he whispered to the girls. "We're going to turn the tables. We're going to set a trap for him." Sophie and Emma nodded, while Lily closed her eyes to feel Crane's movements. David had a plan: to use the confined space of the hangar and the debris to trap the attacker and gain a strategic advantage. When Crane rushed forward again, David pretended to stagger, drawing the assailant towards the center of the hangar. At the last moment, Lily shouted, "Now!" David activated an old, rusty gear, causing a heavy metal gate to fall across Crane's path. Caught off guard, he groaned as he retreated, while Sophie and Emma took advantage of the moment to block the exits with debris and dangling chains. Crane roared with rage, striking the gate forcefully. But what was supposed to be their trap now had an additional effect: the hangar was too narrow for his maneuvers, and every movement risked trapping him further. David, catching his breath, approached cautiously. "It's over, Crane." You don't stand a chance. The assassin stepped back, his eyes burning with anger, but one detail changed everything. He pulled a small electronic device from his pocket. You think you've trapped me, he said with a chilling smile. You've just triggered something you can't stop. An explosion of light and smoke engulfed the hangar. David shielded the girls behind him, his heart pounding with fear. But through the smoke, he noticed a change. Lily stood there, focused, as if she could sense the direction of the unseen attack. As the dust settled, David realized that this fight would not be limited to physical strength. The battle would be mental, strategic, and dangerously unpredictable. And in the shadows, Victor Crane knew he was facing something he had never encountered before, prey capable of seeing his intentions before they even manifested. The hangar was thick with smoke, dust, and palpable tension. David Harrington could feel his heart pounding. The girls stood behind him, trembling but ready to act on his instructions. Lily, her eyes closed, seemed to sense Victor Crane's every move before he even made it. Crane, furious, advanced slowly, assessing the situation. Each step was a challenge, each breath a silent warning. David knew that if Crane reached the girls, they wouldn't survive. He had to act. Suddenly, Crane brandished a shining knife. Leave them alone, or they'll pay the ultimate price, he roared. David felt time slow down. He had only one option: lure Crane away from the girls. But that meant putting himself in danger, alone against an unpredictable and deadly opponent. Get behind me, shouted David. Now. The girls obeyed, sliding behind a pile of debris, while David lunged forward, facing Crane. Their eyes met, and in that split second, David understood it was a choice of life or death. Crane struck, quick and precise, but David nimbly dodged, using the tension of the hangar to his advantage. Every move Crane made was anticipated by Lily, who whispered precise directions. David sensed that his courage and the girls' clear thinking could create a window of opportunity. With a final effort, he tipped a heavy shelf over on Crane, forcing him backward and throwing him off balance. The knife fell, and Crane snarled in rage, trapped but still dangerous. David, breathless and covered in dust, knelt before the girls. It's all right now, he murmured. But deep down, he knew this victory was temporary. Victor Crane had not yet revealed the full extent of his cruelty. And as they regrouped, a sinister noise echoed through the hangar. Crane had left a small flashing device, signaling that the real hell had not yet begun. David looked at the girls, determined. We've bought ourselves some time, but we still have one last battle to fight. The hangar was plunged into a heavy silence, broken only by the ominous blinking of the aircraft left behind by Victor Crane. David Harrington felt the adrenaline surge through him. Every fiber of his being was taut. The girls stood close to him, huddled but brave, ready to follow his instructions. Listen to me, said David, his voice firm despite his fatigue. We're going to neutralize this man once and for all. Lily closed her eyes and reached out her hand. I can feel it, he's here, he's planning something worse than anything he's done before. David nodded. He knew there would be no easy way out. Crane had planned his final move, but they were going to use his arrogance against him. David signaled to the girls to position themselves near the sides of the hangar, behind the debris. When Crane reappeared, emerging from one of the side exits, he hadn't expected the coordination of their makeshift team. Lily, guiding every move, anticipated his attacks, while Sophie and Emma used anything they could find to hinder him. David leaped forward, using his strength and experience to disarm Crane. The girls actively participated, striking and pushing with determination. Every move seemed amplified by Lily's gift, giving them a head start. Finally, Crane tripped over a stack of crates, falling heavily to the ground. The device he had left behind was flashing dangerously. David quickly approached and, with surgical precision, deactivated the explosive just in time. Breathless but victorious, David turned to the girls. It's over, we won. The girls burst into tears of relief, throwing themselves into his arms. Lily whispered, thank you for never abandoning us. David smiled, an intense emotion crossing his face. You taught me true courage, and it's not over. We will rebuild, together. In the distance, police sirens finally wailed. Victor Crane had been neutralized, but David knew that what he had just experienced would be forever etched in their memories. What had begun as a simple rescue had become a fight for life, hope, and courage. And as dawn broke over the city, David, Lily, Sophie and Emma emerged from the hangar, hand in hand, ready to face a world where, despite fear and cruelty, hope and solidarity always triumphed.